We also have out in the crowd, like to recognize Ken Shattuck. He comes from Missouri, representing the National Farmers Organization. I think it's 950 miles that he drove. The next man, I think, probably drove, I should say, about that far. The Honorable Senator Cap Dirks, representing the Organization for Competitive Markets from Nebraska. Welcome to Harriet.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and visit with you folks. Before I get any further, I want to recognize Senator Frank Klochek out here in the crowd. He made it up from some stuff in Pierre this morning and decided he'd come up and take part in it too. We live in the greatest nation in the world, or do we? We have a government that's set up with three branches of government: the judiciary, an executive, and a legislative. Each of these branches of government have an oversight. The oversight for the legislative branch are the citizens of Nebraska, of the state. The oversight for the executive branch are also the voters of the state. The oversight for the judiciary branch, I'm still trying to figure that out. I know that I can't vote for any of the federal district judges as a state legislator. Those federal district judges receive a lifetime appointment, so they have very little threatening them. We can vote in Nebraska on the county judges and the state office judges. And it's a kind of funny way we vote. We vote like the question is, shall such and so be retained in office? But at least we can vote. I was going to tell you a little story, and it includes Frank Klochek. I had decided back in 1999 that we were having difficulties. I decided in 98, actually. There was a merger of Continental Grain and Cargill, and potential merger, and we hadn't heard anything about it. At the time, I was chairman of the Ag Committee for the legislature in Nebraska, and I decided I'd go to, when I was at a conference in D.C., I'd go to one of our U.S. senators and ask him what's going on. If the merger took place, it would provide for a huge monopoly, and it would do away with competition. It had to be one of the worst things that could happen to Nebraska grain growers. When I got in front of the U.S. Senator, he didn't want to talk about it. He was looking every place but me. And so I decided when I came back, I got my legal counsel for the Ag Committee. I said, we need to do Packers and Stockyards Act for Nebraska. So we put this stuff together. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the mandatory price reporting. For years, the ranchers and farmers in this country wanted price reporting. They'd had it and got good reporting when the slaughterhouses were on the river market. So when the slaughterhouses moved out into the countryside around the feedlots, no more price reporting. So whenever anybody made any notion to the Congress about doing price reporting, the Packers were right there and said, we don't want it, and they didn't have it. So with Frank Klochek's help, and a senator from Iowa, Jack Kibbe, and a House member from Minnesota, Ted Winter, we had a meeting over in Sioux Falls, and some of you, I think, were there. And we started down that path, and I got those bills that I introduced, and I gave them to these guys. And so in 1999, all four of these states passed price reporting on a daily basis, mandatory price reporting. Well, about the time we got it passed, I had a call from Senator Bob Kerrey. He was U.S. Senator from Nebraska, and he said, Cap, he said, we've been asked by the Packers to introduce price reporting legislation, and they want us to do what they want, and then have us to do away with yours. They don't like what you did. And that's exactly what happened. And the price reporting bill that came out didn't work, and it still doesn't work. And I think that's part of that price reporting we're talking about here, isn't it, Herman? Yeah. About that same time, I ran into Herman Shoemaker. He'd come down to Omaha at the old Sarpin field house, and they had a panel set up that Governor Ben Nelson had asked for, and Herman and I were both on the panel. Herman gave one of the first talks, and I got to give the last one, and there were about 8 panelists there. And Herman got up and told it like it was. You know how he tells it. And by the time the people from NCBA, from the Chekhov Board, for the American Meat Institute, for the shipping groups, by the time they got through, why, Herman felt about this big. So he came over to me. We took a break before they took me, and I was the last one. They said it's time for us to stand up. So that's the first time I met Herman. He came to me and he says, Cap, he said, I sure hope you can help me a little bit here. I feel like I'm a lonesome polecat up here. So I managed to give him a little help, and I think that we ended on a good note anyway. But we have the ability to pass legislation in our states that will help us. We did that in Nebraska. We passed a ban on packer ownership of livestock, mandatory price reporting. We did 2 contract bills. We had country boards and labeling, but I didn't get it on a committee because the grocers kept it in. But those other 4 bills we got out. And when the feds passed price reporting, and I'm trying to think of the word, Frank, they did away with our legislation. Some of that legislation that we passed in Nebraska was also included in that action by the Congress. Some of it wasn't. We still have price reporting on the books. We still have ban on packer ownership on the books. But we can't enforce the price reporting because there's a federal hold on it. So these things can happen in these state legislatures, and I think that we need to push for that. We can control our own destiny a little bit, and if enough of us do that in the state legislatures, I think we can put the hammer on our congressional counterparts. I think that with that, I'm just going to wrap it up, and I do appreciate the opportunity to come here, and I'm very supportive of what Herman's doing. I should tell you, I'm also a member of RCAF, and also I'm a veterinarian, retired, and I got a cattle ranch over in Wheeler County in Nebraska that was homesteaded by my great-grandfather back in the 80s. And, we're struggling to try to keep that going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Dirks.